Are we going to get the sort of leave, the sort of Brexit that you chaired the campaign for? Or is it now so fractured by amendments and divisions that we're going to get a very poor sort of Brexit, in your view?
And, of course, a poor Brexit where we lose all the advantages and suffer all the disadvantages, i.e. be rule takers, without being able to strike our own deals, is what no one voted for. And I think it is sad that we're still having an introduction of Remain and Leave. We've had a referendum, we've had a campaign between Remain and Leave, and we had an outcome. And
Except part of the reason that we're in this situation today is because those in Parliament really, genuinely want us still to be part of the EU. So you could say that these amendments are all about clinging on by our fingertips because those parliamentarians believe we're better off as close to the EU as possible, never mind the vote.
And they're the same parliamentarians who, like me, voted to the terms of the referendum, voted for triggering Article 50, and it is therefore not a question of rerunning the referendum, because outside the M25 belt, when you go there, people say, haven't we left yet? Now, the politicians, having gone to the referendum, having said to the people, you decide, now refusing to implement that, and particularly for Labour voters.
The Prime Minister called a general election. So we have a democratic result of the people who were elected in the House of Commons. So, frankly, it's pretty undemocratic not to listen to those people. You know, I put myself in front of my constituents, my Labour voters that Gisela talks about, and talk to them about how we can get Brexit done, how we can allow people to have a view of the deal once we've got it. And I was re-elected with an increased majority. So the Prime Minister got us into this situation by calling that general election.
But Labour's now talking about basically trying to stay in the single market and customs union. But that's not Brexit.
Says who? Because...
Well, says most of the Labour people we talked to. But they use phrases like, we want to stay as near to the single market as we can, as near to the customs union. I mean, what does it all mean?
The fact is, if we leave the single market and the customs union, it will be pretty horrific for our economy. Look at the news yesterday that Jaguar Land Rover are moving production to Slovakia, which they themselves said that was their insurance, their hedge against the consequences.
But in the end, Brexit has to be what people thought Brexit was. You can't just reinvent what it is because you don't like the result.
Well, the point is, it isn't a simple yes or no matter. That's why the government has got into such difficulty, why Jeremy Corbyn's in such difficulty. Incidentally, he's not supporting continued membership of the single market, as you said.
He's not, but others are. We had one on yesterday.
That's right. Is that the question about whether leaving the European Union means leaving the single market and the customs union is not straightforward. It's possible to leave the European Union and remain inside, though, of course, some people would like it to be absolutely clear. And Parliament, quite rightly, is saying, you know, there are enormous complexities in this, particularly around the customs arrangement, of how you have a system that protects supply chain industries like Jaguar Land Rover, how we preserve the Good Friday Agreement and not dividing the island of Ireland, and how do we do that? I mean, Theresa May has been struggling with her own cabinet.
Look at how this must all appear from Brussels, right? No wonder they're not engaging in serious talks, let alone offering serious concessions, when they can see Remainers in the two houses of the British Parliament doing their work for them. Why should they engage if there is either a chance that we don't leave at all, which is what the amendment that says that we would stay in until there's been a second vote would practically mean? At that stage, the Brussels negotiators would lose any incentive to engage. Or if they think, which may be even better from their point of view, that we stay as a kind of non-voting member, subject to all of the rules, all of the regulations, Brussels continuing to control all of our trade policy with third countries, all the rest of it. The only difference being that we have no vote, no voice, no veto. In that situation, we would really be a kind of Euro colony. We'd be subject to taxation without representation.
What we need is bringing people together. We need a sense of national purpose about this. And actually, we shouldn't be dividing people on the basis of leavers and remainers. We should be bringing people together. And that means dealing with the problems on both sides.
Literally nobody agrees. You don't even agree with your own front bench.
Well, actually, we've got a very positive approach towards the customs union and the single market.
Do you want us to stay in the single market and customs union?
I think that we should, yes.
You should. Yes. Well, then you don't agree with your own leadership.
Well, that's not quite true because...
So is that what Jeremy Corbyn now believes?
Our policy is to stay in the customs union.
And single market?
Keir Starmer has said we need a positive deal on the single market.
When you say that your party is united, I don't think they are.
Would you like me to answer the question?
Yes.
OK. Jeremy Corbyn has said exactly the same thing as Keir Starmer, which is our policy is for the customs union and to get a positive single market deal. The difference that I have fought for is to have that membership of the single market because we need regulatory alignment for the sake of the Northern Irish border and to keep our manufacturing industry open.
My issue is about the preservation of democracy. I think we took a democratic vote and the people like me who voted Remain lost. But I was very clear when I voted that it meant leaving the single market and customs union. We now have two parties who actually just want to pretend, it seems to me, that that was not what Brexit meant.
The mandate of the referendum was to implement to leave. It didn't say just this parliament. It was subsequent MPs. And the bottom line was the final word over our laws, so no more European Court of Justice, to make our own trade deals and to control our borders. Now, if you were arguing for a second referendum which said, do you want to leave with this deal or no deal, I would say that's an implementation of the referendum.